Hello everyone, I am Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer and Information Science at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. And this video today is going to take a simple look at countdown timers. We're going to use the drag and drop interface. I haven't done some of this yet, so we'll see how many function calls, how much drag and drop we actually use versus if we need to actually go in and use any code. That's the fun of using GameMaker, is they only have so much that you can do in the drag and drop interface. So we'll see as far as we can go. Of course, we're using GameMaker Studio 2 to get this all done. And so kind of let's get to it. I have what you see here. I have a few things set up already. One thing to note here under the game options is that our game is running at 60 frames per second. That's what we're trying to go for. So we're trying to, the games of the past in GameMaker Studio actually were 30 frames per second, but they've upgraded since then. It's been a few years. It's only been about 15 or 16 years that I know of GameMaker. So it's about time that they increase themselves up to 60 frames per second here. And other things that I've done is I have just basic sprites set up. I have just a square here that's 75 by 75. I did center it, middle center it, and I just gave it a little outline. So it looks like a button. It's really not a button, but it looks like one. And then I just took it, but this is the Michigan Wolverine, blue and yellow, and then I just reversed it. So this will be the alarm, I'm just going to set up an alarm, like not like an alarm in GameMaker, but just like an alarm object, like a timer. And so this is what it'll look like while it's armed and counting down, and then when it goes off, it'll just switch, and this is basically just screaming out that it has gone off. It's just inverted colors is all that I have. I have two objects set up. I have a started timer and a completed timer. Oops, I need to change the graphic on that. There we go. So that you have, okay, yeah, basically here's your working timer and your completed timer. And I just put a series of them inside the room, and that's because, of course, once they're in the room, each individual object is, basically individualized compared to everybody else. If you had 6 alarms sitting in your house, 6, countdown timers or something like that, they're all independent of one another. And so the game will cover that just the same. And so we're kind of ready to go now. And so, and what I'm going to do here is just one of many, many ways you could go about doing this. I'm just trying to balance simplicity. It's really difficult for us on this end, trying to show you what to do, trying not to make it too easy, trying not to make it, well, easy wouldn't be so bad, but trying definitely not to make it too hard so that you don't understand what's going on under the hood. That's my job. All right, so let's get to it. One way I can definitely think about this is I'm going to have a starting timer. I'm not going to, again, this is all meant to be simple, so it's just going to start the game, with a timer armed and counting down. If you, this video is not going to show you how to set up timers that you click on or things like that. This is just to kind of just get you started and just show you just the basic ropes here. So in the draw event, I can take over the draw event, and when I run this after taking over the run event, you will see that everything disappears. Oops, oh, not this time around. I guess maybe they've changed things slightly here. But in the draw event, if I put anything, let me try this now. Let me preface this. If I put anything, drag anything in there, and now run. There we go. Okay, the rules have changed in GameMaker as far as my understanding. Probably happened a while ago, but I don't get to play with GameMaker like I used to. So you can see everything's disappeared. And that's because we took over the draw event here and said, I know better than GameMaker how to draw my object. And so in this case, whatever the draw event was, the default behavior has been taken over by me. So what I need to do is basically, because I want to draw a number on top, I'm going to have a countdown timer. So what I can do is I can pull this up, and this draw self, this tells GameMaker, hey, remember, I took over the draw event, but could you just draw what you would have drawn if I didn't take over from you? And so now you can see when I do that everything has now come back, because draw self just basically means draw what you would have drawn if I wasn't so brash here. Okay, so now what I can do is I can draw some text over it, and I'm just keeping everything simple. And you want to make sure you put it in on the after the draw, because let's just show what this is. I'm going to do this relative to its position. Okay, so now you can see, and I remember I centered everything here. So all my objects are centered. So there's my caption, colon, colon. You can see they're all drawing out 0, 0 relative to that center position, that origin position. So I want to get rid of this, and I'm going to put in alarm 0. Those are square brackets because alarms are arrays. And so now it should come up as -1s for everything. Okay, -1 for everything. See, there you go, because that's what the alarm value is sitting under the hood right now. It's a -1, which is fine. Let's see, how can the transform? I'm trying to remember how to do this so I can super center it. Set font, set draw font, set text alignment. That's what I want to do. So I want to do center. So this will make it or center middle or whatever the heck. So now this will make things a little nicer on the eye. There we go. So now the -1 is purely centered at that center position because it's centered horizontally and it's centered vertically. Okay, cool. So with that said, now we've taken over the draw event, and now we're going to be using this alarm 0. So what I can do in a create event here is just to kind of show you. Just to kind of get things going, I am going to set that alarm timer. Oops, I don't know what just happened. But anyway, set alarm countdown, and I'm going to use a random number. And I'm going to say random, because remember we're running at 60 frames per second, so 300 plus random 300, and that's parentheses this time around. I wish we could make the drag and drop bigger, and when you make it bigger, it just gets pixelized. So this is basically going to give me a number between, I'm sorry, wrong alarm. Alarm 0, countdown 300 plus random 300. So remember, every object in GameMaker has 12 alarms, and I've never used more than 3 or 4 in my entire life, because who the heck needs that many? Use more objects if you're going to do that. But anyway, so alarm 0 is going to be set to a random number between 300 and 600, basically, or 300 and 599.999. And so everything's going to count down. Nope, it's not going to count down. This is the create event. Okay, interesting. And so but at least you can see that the numbers have been set, correct? Yes. So what's going on here is, this is one of those things, you just got to get used to the idiosyncrasies and the dysfunctions of the tools that you're using, is I set an alarm timer, but nothing is counting down, right? The numbers just sit there, which is not good. And so with GameMaker, if you set alarms, if you do not have an alarm event, let me see if that'll do it. Before we had to put something in there to make this work. And yep, it's doing exactly the same thing where nothing's happening. But if you do not have an alarm event, you can see nothing happens. So I want to do an instance change, right? I want to say, okay, when the alarm goes off, change into the completed timer state or object or whatever you want to see or whatever you want to say there. And so now, there we go. Now you can see them. They're all counting down finally. And when they get 0, boink, they change over. So the alarm, so that's one of those things. This here, the alarm 0 event, is what you would, what do I do when the alarm reaches 0 or when the alarm goes off? In our case, we're changing the object type, but you could put anything you want here. So this is basically, instead of like with me with the timers, just go over and whack it and turn it off. This, that is my reaction to the alarm going off, generally when my alarms go off. But now you can see we can do anything we want in this alarm 0 event. And so now a couple things I want to do, since this is a simple video, is I want to be able to, when I draw this, draw out the alarm 0. I don't want it to draw out game frames. I want it to draw it with how many seconds are there to go or something like that, right? So basically like a 24-second shot clock in like basketball or something like that. And so what I can do, and so just, if I take this and divide by 60, that'll show you how many seconds you have left, right? And again, presuming that we're doing 60 frames per second. So there, 6, 5, everything's counting down in seconds. and there it goes off at 0. So if you like it that way, that's fine. Another thing you can do, this is where things get tricky here. If I want to eliminate the decimal point and just make it like, like a football clock or something like that, I can go ahead and do that. But it's probably simpler for me to set that up inside here and just do the calculations myself. So I'm going to set up a temporary variable, just a local variable. This does not become part of the object. I just need this temporarily to compute a value. So there's take my alarm and divide by 60. And if I want to, I could just go ahead and say, now just say temp minus, and then there's a function called frac. And so temp, as long as this value is positive, which it will always be in this very simple example, this is saying take the temp, which is whatever value comes out, and basically subtract off everything after the decimal point. And so this should show me seconds. There we go. It shows me seconds without the decimal point. 3. Now the only thing is, and this is the difference in different sports. Like in basketball, the countdown timers go to tenths of a second when you work your way down to very small amounts, under a minute or under 5 seconds when it comes to the shot clock. But in football, the game ends when it's 0-0. So when you saw that here, it's like, well, do I want that? Do I want to show a 0 when it counts down to 0, or do I want it to show a 1? And so like usually when you see a 0 like that, you're like, oh my goodness, why isn't it going off? So if you really, really want to, you could add a 1 to this. This will give me an integer value, and then now something like this will get me there. So let's see. So everything starts off basically just adding 1. So now 2, 1, done. So it's just a matter of 0-based versus 1-based. We generally deal with that a lot as programmers, but you can also deal with that as professional timers for sports. Okay, so that, and then of course you can change fonts and do whatever you want. So the other thing I wanted to show you in this short, small video today is basically just how to set up like a countdown timer, like a bar, something like that, that will show on an individual basis what's going on when it comes to how much time is left. So let me add that here. Let's see. So to do this simply, there are complicated ways to do it. You could write your own code, but the mechanism for health can be taken over to draw health, or basically to draw a health bar, but basically use that as if it were your countdown timer bar. So let me find the health. Draw health. Let's see, where's set get draw. Okay, draw health bar with a health bar. Draw health bar from a 0 to 100 value. Health with a health bar. What is the? I don't know what the difference necessarily is, but let's just see. Okay, direction. Do we want it to go left to right or right to left? Let's do all relative here. Let's just get this thing going, and then we can tinker with it, right? So let's see, left, top, top, bottom, and you'll see. Let's just draw the health bar. Let's just draw it on the screen. Just draw it just to see. Oh my goodness, there is my health bar. That doesn't help anybody. That's not a health bar. That's a health square. Let's see, left, right, top, bottom. Instead of this, let's just make it 10. Let's just start working our way to make it smaller. Okay, so that works for us, right? I mean, so now we just got to work on the placement of this thing. So let's see. So left, so just based on what I drew, maybe -50 to +50. And then I got to move this thing up a bit more, so maybe -70 to -60. It's all pixel based. Let's see what this does. And there we go. So there we have, you can always change this. We have a working health bar. Oops, there they go off. Oh, that's kind of cool, right? Oh, the numbers aren't drawing. Interesting. Or maybe they are. Maybe I just can't see them now that I've changed colors. Oh no, they are there. feel like they went away. Okay, 1, 0. Okay, it's working now. Maybe I just wasn't noticing while I was talking and thinking and doing previously. Okay, so now the thing is, we need to keep track of, we know what our health is. That's just the alarm, right? But we're not keeping track of what the original alarm countdown timer was. So we do need to maintain that, because we need to maintain, well, how much of the alarm is left to go? Is there, 1 out of 9 seconds, 1 out of 8? And that will influence how much of the bar should be showing, right? I mean, so that just makes sense. So we'll have to keep that variable stored under the hood here. I don't know why they keep calling it temp, but I'll call it starting value, and that's an underscore there. So I say, okay, whatever you compute this thing to, whatever my alarm timer starts at, I will call that starting value here, and I will maintain this. So now when I go over to draw, I have everything set up. Maybe I want colors, change the colors. The minimum, make this red. I like to do that where I make it red when it's scary and the timer's counting down, and make it a nice healthier green when you don't have as much time to wait for, right? Because it's just green light go, red light stop kind of thing. So now for this value, what I can do is I can take my alarm 0, divide it into the starting value, and multiply it by 100, and that will get me, let me see if I can drag this out so you can see it better. Nope, oh, there we go. Alarm 0 divided by starting value times 100, that'll get me a value between 0 and 100, which needs to go into that health bar to correctly portray what the value is. Oops, and I have a crash. Line 43. Line 43 doesn't really help us. Let's see, timer started, draw event, action 1. Some value, the dot starting value. Oh, interesting. Timer started. And this is, I didn't mean to declare temporary here. This is something, see, this is, okay, a learning thing here. So when I declare a temporary variable here called starting value, you can use this thing. Obviously, it didn't crash here in the create event, but when this create event closes out and ends, this thing is destroyed. And I don't need that because I'm using that in a different event. So instead of declare temp, I want declare variable. I'm just going to borrow these guys before I erase it. And so this will keep the variable alive as long as the object is alive and well and working. Now, create it here in the create event, and I can use it everywhere else. Now does it work? There we go. Okay, cool. Now you can kind of see them all counting down, some a little faster than others. And so when the countdown timer ends, the timers go off. So those are 2 ways to show the timers. Now you have a timer bar, and you have a countdown timer itself, a number that shows you how much time to go. And so another little thing you could do here, if you wanted to, just a few little odds and ends here. If I click on this thing, left click, mouse, left pressed, I can then just say here, I'm going to make sure I set the correct variable here, and say, oh, how about alarm 0 is set to 0 when I click? You get what that might do? Talking about everything else we've been doing here. So when I do this and I click and I go, boop, it immediately sets it to 0. But it does. See, what's funny about that is it does. Notice how it doesn't. That's GameMaker for you. Like, oh no, what is it doing? It set it to 0, but it didn't actually call the alarm event. So let me just see if I can. Let me just make this a 1 instead. Just playing with GameMaker, just getting used to its nooks and crannies here. If I click, there we go. Because that's what I was intending to do, is to click on it and to just basically say, okay, I'm turning it off, or I'm basically disarming it by clicking on it. And what I can do then here is come back into this timer completed object, which up to now has been left alone. We can do the same kind of thing. If I do a key press event, no, I'm sorry, not key press. The heck, I just did it. Where's mouse? Mouse, left pressed. And when I do a mouse left pressed on the completed timer, then I can go ahead and do my instance change and say, how about you go back to becoming another timer again? Rearm the timer. go, I click, and I click again, and now it goes back. And remember, every time I do this, it rearms the timer to a different value, somewhere between 5 and 10. Because that's somewhere between 300 to 600 game frames, which is 5 to 10 seconds. And that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about. This video might be a little longer than I anticipated, but at least you understand all the little nooks and crannies here of setting up little countdown timers, little numbered timers, and you can kind of interact with these things to kind of set them and unset them as you want. So if you have any questions or concerns, as always, you can comment below here on YouTube, or you can obviously email me at swardb@cod.edu, and I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as I can and answer your questions. So right now, depending on where you are, I'm going through a list of my students' assistance requests, and this is just the first of many, I hope, of just doing little recipes for doing the things. Countdown timers and buttons are very common in games, especially with user interfaces and whatnot. So it makes sense to work through all these little recipes for the things that we do very commonly. So thanks for sticking it out with me. As always, have a great day, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next time.